There's a silence that settles just before the world shifts. It is not the kind of silence that demands attention, but the one that pierces deeper than sound ever could. And in that sacred stillness, something ancient begins to awaken inside of you. If you've been feeling different lately, more watched, more aware, more certain yet mysteriously unsettled, you're not imagining things. You're being prepared, not for popularity, not for praise, but for presence, for power, for purpose. This is the beginning of the unveiling. And you, whether you realize it yet or not, are part of something much greater than anyone around you dares to understand. For years, maybe even lifetimes, you've walked through shadows. You've known rejection in rooms where you only ever brought light. You've felt the weight of being misunderstood, even by those who claim to love you. And somewhere along the way, you stopped trying to explain yourself. You stopped shrinking to make others feel comfortable. You stopped apologizing for the power that pulses beneath your skin. And now, the glow they tried to silence is burning brighter than ever. But what they see on your face, what draws eyes in crowded rooms and silences whispers mid-breath, is not something cosmetic. It's not a trend. It's not fashion. It's transformation. And it is divine. I've spent over 2 decades studying the hidden pathways of the soul, the sacred texts forgotten by time, the mystical traditions whispered from teacher to disciple. And every time a soul awakens to its purpose, the signs are the same: solitude, sensitivity, strength born from survival. If this is your season of awakening, know this: it's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be holy. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you have always been beneath the conditioning, the wounds, and the noise. There is a light inside of you that was never meant to be dimmed. But the world is afraid of what it cannot control, and those bound to illusion often fear those who walk in truth. That is why your transformation has unsettled them. It's why they gossip. It's why they look twice, then look away. They can't articulate it. But your presence triggers something ancient in them too, a recognition of what they have denied in themselves. You are a mirror, and mirrors are uncomfortable for those hiding from their own reflection. Let me tell you a story. In the heart of medieval France, a young girl heard voices from what she believed were divine origins. These voices didn't tell her to be silent. They didn't tell her to conform. They told her to rise, to lead, to fight for a nation that never imagined salvation would come in the form of a teenage peasant girl. Her name was Joan of Arc. And though her armor was real, her true power came not from metal, but from conviction, from divine alignment, from choosing obedience to a calling that made her a threat to every system built on control. She glowed not with makeup, not with charm, but with fire that refused to be extinguished, even at the stake. Like Joan, you may not fully understand why you're changing. You may not feel ready. But the glow up they're seeing is the smoke of every battle you walked through without surrendering your soul. It's the shine of scars that have turned into scripture written across your skin. It's not charisma, it's calling. You are walking evidence that the divine still chooses ordinary vessels to carry extraordinary light. When you enter a space, the energy shifts, not because you announce yourself, not because of ego, but because alignment has a frequency, and you are now tuned to a wavelength most people forgot existed. That's why people pause mid-sentence when you speak. That's why they watch you when you're not looking. It's not always admiration, it's reverence. and reverence can look like fear, like fascination, like envy. But it's always felt. There's a gravitational pull forming around you, one that draws not just attention, but revelation. You will find that some are repelled by it. That's natural. They are not rejecting you. They are reacting to the truth you carry. The truth that exposes their performance, their pretend peace, their curated personas. You, beloved, are not filtered. You are not fabricated. You are real. And in a world obsessed with illusion, reality becomes both sacred and scandalous. You're not just becoming more attractive. You're becoming unforgettable. Not because of how you look, but because of what your energy does to the atmosphere. You carry stillness like thunder. You bring peace like a storm that calms everything it touches. And those who try to imitate your fire will always get burned. Because what you have wasn't borrowed. It was earned in silence, in tears, in seasons where only God knew what you were carrying. And now, here you are, rising, glowing, being, not for show, but for service. Not to be worshipped, but to walk in purpose. This is not a makeover, it's a metamorphosis. And it will not make sense to those who haven't experienced the cocoon. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Your glow is not for them to understand. It is for you to embody. But perhaps more astonishing is how even you are surprised by your own presence lately. You catch your reflection and pause not in vanity, but in disbelief. Something about your eyes, something about your posture, something in you has returned home. And that's exactly what it is, a return. A reunion with the version of you that never needed validation, that never begged to be seen, that never bartered truth for acceptance. That version is rising, reclaiming territory within your soul. And as this return deepens, you'll notice time bends for you. Opportunities seem to find you without explanation. People exit without chaos, and clarity rises where confusion once reigned. You may think it's coincidence. It's not. It's alignment. It's the evidence that you are no longer dancing to the rhythm of fear, but to the sacred pulse of divine timing. The more you trust it, the more effortless your steps become. You see, attractiveness in the spiritual sense is not about pulling people toward you. It's about pulling your truth out from within you. And that truth will always find its tribe. The ones who see you now truly see you will not be drawn by your performance, but by your frequency. They will speak your language before a single word is exchanged. They will recognize your journey by the way your spirit stands. And you will know them, too, not by appearances, but by energy. This is the new you, not created but revealed, not styled but sanctified, not polished, but powerful. Your glow is not a phase, it is a prophecy fulfilled. And if no one has told you lately, let me be the one to say it. You are not just changing. You are ascending. And the glow others see is merely the surface of something much deeper, an ancient light that can no longer be hidden beneath the skin. So breathe into it. Own it. Walk like the chosen soul you are, because the universe is watching, and it is aligning everything in your favor. Right now, there is a peculiar beauty in walking alone with nothing but your truth as your companion. Not because you were rejected, not because you weren't invited, but because the crowd no longer speaks your language. You've outgrown the noise. you've outgrown the performance. And what's left is something the world finds both threatening and fascinating: authenticity. In this chapter, we speak of the raw power that flows from being undeniably, unapologetically yourself. Chosen ones don't conform. They create, not to stand out, but because standing in their truth makes blending in impossible. And that truth, your truth, is not about being different for the sake of rebellion. It's about remembering who you are beneath the layers the world taught you to wear. When you begin to show up as yourself, fully, without a script or a filter, the entire atmosphere bends. People may not understand it, but they feel it. They pause. They stare. They whisper, not because you're shouting, but because your silence carries more weight than their noise. This is the power of authenticity. It's not in the volume, it's in the vibration. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You've stopped seeking validation from crowds, too lost to recognize real power when it enters the room. And that's why you're becoming magnetic. Not because you chase attention, but because you don't. Think of the great mystics, prophets, and sages throughout time. They didn't move with the crowd. They moved with conviction. From the desert wanderings of Jesus to the forest meditations of Siddhartha before he became the Buddha, the path of truth has always been a lonely one, but never a powerless one. These chosen vessels radiated something that transcended physical appearance. They carried frequencies, fields of energy so aligned with divine essence that their presence alone shifted consciousness. That's what authenticity does. It awakens. And make no mistake, awakening is disruptive. When you start living from your soul, you become a mirror to those still acting from their mask. They may mock you. They may distance themselves. Some may even call you arrogant or weird. But it's not about you. It's about what your truth exposes in them. Your presence forces them to confront their own falsehoods, their borrowed identities, their rehearsed lives. The irony is that while the world teaches conformity as safety, it secretly longs for authenticity. People crave real. They crave depth. They crave connection that doesn't come prepackaged or curated for likes. And that's where you come in. Your refusal to perform, to twist, to mold yourself into palatable shapes. They feel that. They remember something ancient in your eyes. Something that says, I am not here to entertain you. I am here to be me. And that is power. Not long ago, I met a woman who'd spent most of her life trying to fit into boxes that were never designed for her. In corporate meetings, she wore masks of competence and perfection. In social settings, she dimmed her light to avoid making others uncomfortable. But behind closed doors, her spirit ached. She felt like she was suffocating in her own skin. Then one day, everything broke: her marriage, her career, her health. What followed wasn't a breakdown. It was a breakthrough. Stripped of everything she thought she had to be, she finally asked herself, who am I without the mask? The answer came in whispers first, then in waves. She began painting again, something she hadn't done since childhood. She moved to a quieter town. She stopped straightening her hair. She stopped explaining her choices. And you know what happened. People started noticing her not just physically, but spiritually. They felt lighter around her. They trusted her without knowing why. She didn't speak louder. She simply started living louder. And that made all the difference. You see, Authenticity is a frequency. It can't be imitated. It can't be downloaded. It can't be taught through algorithms. It's something you arrive at when all the false selves have fallen away. And when you finally get there, when your inner world aligns with your outer expression, your life becomes magnetic to everything that resonates with your truth. But here's the truth most won't tell you: authenticity costs. It will cost you relationships that depended on your pretending. It will cost you jobs that required your silence. It will cost you comforts built on conformity. But what you gain is far greater. You gain peace. You gain clarity. You gain the freedom to breathe in your own skin without apology. And more than anything, you gain alignment. And in alignment, there is no need to chase. The people, the purpose, the prosperity, it all starts to find you. Not because you manipulated it, but because you magnetized it. Because the universe doesn't respond to perfection. It responds to resonance. And when your soul starts vibrating in harmony with divine truth, the world around you must adjust. So, if lately you've been feeling more distant from the crowd, if people have been telling you, you've changed, take that as confirmation. You're not meant to blend in. You're meant to blaze a trail. You're meant to remind others what real looks like. And yes, it's lonely at times. But the loneliness isn't punishment, it's purification. It's the sacred space where the noise fades and your soul becomes audible again. In that stillness, in that solitude, you don't lose yourself. You find yourself. Keep walking. Keep shedding. Keep choosing your truth over their comfort. Because every time you do, you become a little more powerful, a little more magnetic, a little more unforgettable. And the world, the real world that's waking up, needs more of that. Needs more of you. You are not too much. You are not too intense. You are not too honest. You are exactly as you were designed to be. And every step you take in authenticity becomes a permission slip for someone else to do the same. So do not shrink. Do not edit. Do not apologize. Your realness is your rebellion. Your truth is your trumpet. Your soul is your sermon. And when you walk like that as yourself, unfiltered and unwavering, the whole universe leans in to listen. That is the power of the chosen. There's a kind of loneliness that no one talks about. Not the kind where no one's around, but the kind where everyone is, and yet, you still feel unseen. If you've ever walked into a room full of people and felt more invisible than if it were empty, then you already know what I'm talking about. This chapter is not just about isolation. It's about the divine distance that chosen ones often endure. It's a silence that echoes, a space that stretches, and a path that, though sacred, is rarely crowded. You didn't choose this loneliness, but it chose you for a reason. Because when the universe decides to awaken a soul, it often does so in the wilderness. That's where distractions fall away. That's where the ego dissolves. That's where your own voice, long drowned out by the opinions and noise of others, finally starts to speak. And though it hurts at first, this pulling away, this stripping of your old life, it's actually a sacred initiation. Social isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. Remember Moses. Before he ever led anyone to freedom, he spent 40 years in the desert, alone, broken, questioning. And in that solitude, he encountered the divine. Not in a palace, not in a crowd, but in the burning silence of a wilderness he never expected to survive. That's the paradox of the chosen path. It leads through exile before it leads to influence. You may be feeling that now. Friends fading, conversations growing shallow, invitations drying up. And part of you wonders, did I do something wrong? But hear me, you didn't lose them. You outgrew them. Their presence was tied to an older version of you, the one who needed validation, who hid behind likability, who softened their truth to avoid offending. But you've shifted. You've stepped into something bigger, something more aligned. And that frequency, that vibration, no longer matches what you used to tolerate. That's why the phone is quieter. That's why your circle is smaller. That's why weekends feel emptier. Because your soul is in transition. You are being repositioned. And though it feels like separation, it's really elevation. Let me share something personal. Years ago, during my own awakening, I experienced a season where I lost nearly every friend I thought would be there forever. No betrayal, no explosion, just distance, silence, disconnection. It felt like grief. But in that silence, I started hearing things I had never heard before. I began writing again, meditating, reconnecting with nature. And in the absence of all the noise, I heard the clearest guidance of my life. I wasn't being punished. I was being prepared. You see, chosen ones are often misunderstood. Your depth intimidates. Your standards unsettle. Your truth threatens. And so, people back away not because you're wrong, but because you reflect back the parts of them they're not ready to confront. You remind them of what they've ignored in themselves. And that reflection isn't always welcome. But don't take it personally. In fact, take it as confirmation. You're not meant to be widely accepted. You're meant to be deeply impactful. And impact requires depth. Depth requires solitude. Solitude requires courage. Solitude is the forge of the soul. It burns away the shallow connections. It refines your inner knowing. It sharpens your spiritual sight. In that space of aloneness, you start to see who you really are, without the mirrors of other people's expectations. And what you find there is often breathtaking, terrifying. Yes, but also liberating. In Japan, there's a concept called ma. It means the space between. The pause, the silence that gives meaning to the sound, the stillness that frames the movement. You, right now, are in your ma. A divine pause, a sacred intermission, not the end, not even the beginning, but the space where your essence is being clarified. And here's the truth, not everyone can walk with you where you're going. Not everyone has the capacity for your next level. Some relationships were only meant for your caterpillar phase. They can't comprehend your wings. And that's okay. Release them with love. Bless them for the role they played. But don't shrink to fit back into spaces your spirit has already outgrown. You're not alone. You're in alignment. You're not abandoned. You're being anointed. You're not rejected. You're being redirected. This space, the silence, the solitude, the seeming separation, it is holy ground. Treat it as such. Don't rush to fill it. Don't numb it with distractions. Sit with it. Listen to what it has to teach you. Because when the noise falls away, the soul finally speaks. And when you come out of this season, and you'll be unrecognizable. Not because your face changed, but because your frequency did. You'll walk into rooms, and the atmosphere will shift. Not because of ego, but because of energy. Because in your solitude, you found your source. And that changes everything. So if you're alone right now, know this, it's not the end. It's not a mistake. It's a sign, a signal, a spiritual summons to go deeper, to grow stronger, to get clearer. The ones who are meant for you will catch up later. But for now, this journey is yours. Embrace it. This is what it means to be chosen, to be set apart, to be prepared in the quiet so you can roar in the light. And when the world finally sees you, they won't understand the glow, but you will, because you earned it in the silence. There's a kind of loneliness that no one talks about. Not the kind where no one's around, but the kind where everyone is. And yet, you still feel unseen. If you've ever walked into a room full of people and felt more invisible than if it were empty, then you already know what I'm talking about. This chapter is not just about isolation. It's about the divine distance that chosen ones often endure. It's a silence that echoes, a space that stretches, and a path that, though sacred, is rarely crowded. You didn't choose this loneliness, but it chose you for a reason. Because when the universe decides to awaken a soul, it often does so in the wilderness. That's where distractions fall away. That's where the ego dissolves. That's where your own voice, long drowned out by the opinions and noise of others, finally starts to speak. And though it hurts at first, this pulling away, this stripping of your old life, it's actually a sacred initiation. Social isolation is not punishment. It's preparation. Remember Moses before he ever led anyone to freedom. He spent 40 years in the desert, alone, broken, questioning. And in that solitude, he encountered the divine. Not in a palace, not in a crowd, but in the burning silence of a wilderness he never expected to survive. That's the paradox of the chosen path. It leads through exile before it leads to influence. You may be feeling that now. Friends fading, conversations growing shallow, invitations drying up. And part of you wonders, did I do something wrong? But hear me, you didn't lose them. You outgrew them. Their presence was tied to an older version of you, the one who needed validation, who hid behind likability, who softened their truth to avoid offending. But you've shifted. You've stepped into something bigger, something more aligned. And that frequency, that vibration, no longer matches what you used to tolerate. That's why the phone is quieter. That's why your circle is smaller. That's why weekends feel emptier. Because your soul is in transition. You are being repositioned. And though it feels like separation, it's really elevation. Let me share something personal. Years ago, during my own awakening, I experienced a season where I lost nearly every friend I thought would be there forever. No betrayal, no explosion, just distance, silence, disconnection. It felt like grief. But in that silence, I started hearing things I had never heard before. I began writing again, meditating, reconnecting with nature, and in the absence of all the noise, I heard the clearest guidance of my life. I wasn't being punished, I was being prepared. You see, chosen ones are often misunderstood. Your depth intimidates. Your standards unsettle. Your truth threatens. And so, people back away, not because you're wrong, but because you reflect back the parts of them they're not ready to confront. You remind them of what they've ignored in themselves. And that reflection isn't always welcome, but don't take it personally. In fact, take it as confirmation. You're not meant to be widely accepted. You're meant to be deeply impactful. And impact requires depth. Depth requires solitude. Solitude requires courage. Solitude is the forge of the soul. It burns away the shallow connections. It refines your inner knowing. It sharpens your spiritual sight. In that space of aloneness, you start to see who you really are, without the mirrors of other people's expectations. And what you find there is often breathtaking, terrifying. Yes, but also liberating. In Japan, there's a concept called ma. It means the space between, the pause, the silence that gives meaning to the sound, the stillness that frames the movement. You, right now, are in your ma. A divine pause, a sacred intermission, not the end, not even the beginning, but the space where your essence is being clarified. And here's the truth, not everyone can walk with you where you're going. Not everyone has the capacity for your next level. Some relationships were only meant for your caterpillar phase. They can't comprehend your wings, and that's okay. Release them with love. Bless them for the role they played. But don't shrink to fit back into spaces your spirit has already outgrown. You're not alone. You're in alignment. You're not abandoned. You're being anointed. You're not rejected. You're being redirected. This space, the silence, the solitude, the seeming separation, it is holy ground. Treat it as such. Don't rush to fill it. Don't numb it with distractions. Sit with it. Listen to what it has to teach you. Because when the noise falls away, the soul finally speaks. And when you come out of this season, and you'll be unrecognizable. Not because your face changed, but because your frequency did. You'll walk into rooms, and the atmosphere will shift. Not because of ego, but because of energy. Because in your solitude, you found your source, and that changes everything. So if you're alone right now, know this, it's not the end. It's not a mistake. It's a sign, a signal, a spiritual summons to go deeper, to grow stronger, to get clearer. The ones who are meant for you will catch up later. But for now, this journey is yours. Embrace it. This is what it means to be chosen, to be set apart, to be prepared in the quiet so you can roar in the light. And when the world finally sees you, they won't understand the glow. But you will, because you earned it in the silence. Some people call it a gut feeling. Others call it sixth sense. But for the chosen ones, intuition is more than a passing whisper. It's a roar in the soul, a compass that has never once lied. If you've ever known something without knowing how you know it, if you've ever walked away from a situation without logical reason and later realized why you are walking with a power, most people spend a lifetime trying to understand. And in this chapter, we are going to unlock the secret language of intuition. You were never meant to follow the world's script. The path of a chosen one is not paved with obvious signs or guaranteed outcomes. It's often unclear, unpredictable, and utterly illogical. But it is divine. And the only way to navigate that kind of path is by learning to listen to the voice within the ancient intelligence that speaks in the language of feeling. Intuition is not fear. It's not anxiety. It's not trauma talking. It's clarity. It's calm. It's knowing in your bones what your mind can't yet explain. It doesn't scream. It nudges. It doesn't debate. It directs. The challenge is not that you don't have intuition, it's that the world taught you to ignore it, conditioned you to silence it, trained you to trust data more than discernment. But no algorithm will ever know your purpose better than your soul does. From the moment you were born, your intuition has been trying to guide you. When you avoided that friend group in school, when you didn't take that job offer that looked perfect on paper, When you ended that relationship that everyone thought was ideal, that was intuition. That was the divine GPS whispering, "This isn't for you. Keep going." And when you did listen, when you obeyed that whisper despite not having proof, it always led somewhere better, didn't it? Here's a secret few talk about: the more you obey your intuition, the louder it becomes. But the more you ignore it, the quieter it gets. Not because it's gone, but because your doubt drowns it out. Doubt is the fog. Intuition is the lighthouse. And the more you follow its light, the more you realize you were never lost. You were just disconnected. Let me tell you a story. A woman once told me about a time she was planning to fly across the country for a business conference. Everything was set. Her ticket was booked. Her presentation was ready. But the night before her flight, she felt something. Not fear, not illness, just a knowing. A strange, heavy sense that she was not meant to get on that plane. Everyone told her she was being paranoid, that she was overthinking, but she didn't go. The next morning, that plane crashed. Everyone on board was lost. And she, because she listened to a whisper that no one else could hear, survived. That's intuition. It doesn't always warn of death. Sometimes, it simply redirects you toward life, toward the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing. And yes, sometimes the right solitude. Because intuition doesn't care about comfort, it cares about alignment. And alignment often looks like letting go of what's good for what's sacred. In spiritual traditions across the world, intuition is recognized as a divine channel. In the Christian Bible, it's called discernment. In Islam, it's basira, the inner sight. In Buddhism, it's mindfulness. In Hinduism, it's the awakening of the third eye. Different names. One reality: the soul knows what the mind is too slow to grasp. But why do chosen ones seem to have stronger intuition? Because you've been through more. You've had to rely on the invisible when the visible failed you. You've been betrayed by people who smiled. You've been saved by instincts that made no sense at the time. Pain sharpened your perception. Silence strengthened your hearing. And now you move through the world with a different kind of awareness, a deeper seeing, a subtle but powerful ability to feel what others try to hide. And here's what makes your intuition even more powerful. It's not rooted in ego. You don't use it to control. You use it to protect, to serve, to align. That's why people often feel disarmed in your presence. Not because you say much, but because you see much. And being seen deeply is rare. For some, it's healing. For others, it's terrifying. Your intuition is a form of spiritual intelligence. And like any intelligence, it can be cultivated. So how do you strengthen it? First, make space for it. Intuition doesn't compete with chaos. If your mind is full of noise, your soul won't shout over it. Make silence your sanctuary. Meditate. Walk in nature. Unplug. Create room for the subtle to become clear. Second, trust the first nudge, not the second thought. The second thought is often fear disguised as logic. But the first, quick, calm, confident, that's the one. Learn to act before doubt drags you back into indecision. Third, record your insights. Keep an intuition journal. When you feel something strong, write it down, even if it makes no sense. Later, when it plays out, you'll have proof, and proof builds trust. Fourth, protect your energy. Intuition thrives in clarity. So remove yourself from environments and people that distort your peace. If someone consistently drains or confuses you, that's not love. It's interference. And finally, honor your gift. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not making it up. You are connected to something vast, ancient, and holy. And the more you honor that connection, the more it will guide you not just for your benefit, but for those around you. There will be times when intuition tells you to walk away from what looks perfect, to wait when everything says move, to speak when silence is expected. Follow it anyway. Because intuition doesn't predict the future, it prepares you for it. And when the time comes, you'll look back and realize every nudge, every knowing, every divine interruption was part of a higher orchestration. The world may call it coincidence, but you'll know better. You'll know it was your inner compass, the sacred signal of the chosen. So keep listening. Keep trusting. Keep following the voice within. Because that voice is the voice of your becoming, and it will never lead you astray. There's something sacred about pain, not the kind that wounds, but the kind that awakens. For the chosen ones, pain is not just an obstacle. It's a forge, a sacred fire, a hidden laboratory where the soul learns the secret arts of transmutation. This is what the alchemists of old hinted at with cryptic symbols and golden metaphors turning lead into gold. But the lead isn't metal, it's suffering. And the gold isn't wealth, it's wisdom, power, presence. In this chapter, we explore the alchemy of pain. You see, most people run from pain. They numb it, deny it, bury it beneath distractions and denial. But the chosen ones, whether by destiny or design, don't get that luxury. Life doesn't let them bypass the fire. Instead, it throws them into it, over and over. And each time, something inside them changes. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, deeply, permanently. You are not the same person you were before the heartbreak, before the betrayal, before the loss. And you're not supposed to be. Because pain isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to initiate you. It strips away the false. It burns off the ego. It sharpens what is eternal. Pain reveals what comfort cannot. It asks questions that peace never will. Who are you without applause? Who are you when everything falls away? Who are you when nothing and no one shows up to save you? Chosen ones don't just survive those questions. They become the answers. And that is the essence of spiritual alchemy. Pain, when resisted, poisons. But pain, when embraced, transforms. The ancient mystics taught that every wound is a portal. Not to more suffering, but to depth, clarity, truth. And once you've passed through that portal, you carry a power that can't be faked. It lives in your voice, your eyes, your energy. People feel it before they understand it. They say you've changed, that you have a different vibe. What they're really sensing is this: you've died and been reborn. Not physically, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. You're not pretending anymore. You're not performing. You're not afraid of being seen in your wholeness. And that terrifies people who've only ever met others in masks. Let me take you deeper. Alchemy is not about avoiding darkness. It's about entering it with courage, facing the raw, the unresolved, the parts of your story that still sting. Not to suffer again, but to reclaim what was stolen, to take back your voice, to take back your power, to say, this pain will not define me. It will refine me. There's an old Sufi teaching that says, the wound is where the light enters you. And it's true. Because only the wounded understand compassion. Only the broken understand grace. Only those who've walked through the night know how to cherish the dawn. Pain is not the enemy. Denial is. Suppression is. Running is. But you're still here. And that means you've already begun the transmutation. I once met a man who had lost everything: his wife, his home, his health. He told me that for a long time. He cursed the sky, begged for explanations, demanded justice. But eventually, the questions stopped. And in the silence that followed, he began to hear something new. A stillness, a strength, a wisdom he didn't know he had. He started painting, writing, listening. He began volunteering at a shelter, talking to others who had tasted loss. And one day, he said to me, "I didn't just survive. I became someone I admire." That is alchemy. You are not broken. You are becoming. And the very things you thought would end you are now the ingredients of your glow. The betrayal, it taught you discernment. The heartbreak, it taught you boundaries. The silence, it taught you to listen. The failure, it taught you resilience. Nothing was wasted. Every scar is sacred, and the world can feel it. They don't know what you've been through, but they feel the weight of your presence. They feel the depth behind your words. They feel the calm in your silence. That's the kind of authority no title can grant. That's the kind of leadership no certificate can validate. It comes only through fire. And that's what makes you dangerous to the systems of control. You can't be manipulated anymore. You've already faced what they fear. You've already lost what they use to threaten. And still, you rise. The alchemy of pain is not just survival, it's sovereignty. It's when you stop waiting for rescue and realize you are the healer you've been searching for. You are the protector, the anchor, the storm and the calm. And while others seek revenge, you seek redemption, not just for yourself, but for the whole lineage that came before you. Because chosen ones don't just break generational curses, they transmute them into blessings. So how do you begin this process? First, stop resisting your pain. Sit with it. Listen to what it wants to teach you. Let it speak. Let it scream. Let it show you where you've been hiding. Second, tell the truth to yourself. Stop minimizing what you've endured. Stop explaining away your trauma. Your pain is valid. Your story is sacred. Own it. Third, find creative expression. Pain needs a voice. Whether through writing, music, movement, or silence, give it form. Give it shape. Let it out. Not to relive it, but to release it. Fourth, choose meaning. You may never understand why something happened, but you can choose what it means. You can assign it purpose, and purpose is the soil where power grows. And finally, share. When you're ready, turn your pain into light for others. That doesn't mean being perfect. It means being real. Because someone out there is walking through the fire you've already passed. And your voice, your story, your presence, it might just be the map they need. Remember, this alchemy is not about escaping the dark. It's about finding the light within it. And you are the light. You are the gold born from the fire. You are the chosen. Not because you avoided pain, but because you allowed it to shape you without hardening you. You stayed soft, open, real. And that is your greatest magic. So when they ask how you're still standing, how you're still smiling, how you're still rising, just smile. Because the truth is, you didn't just endure, you transformed. And that, dear one, is the highest alchemy of all. Some people seek truth in textbooks. Others search for it in temples. But the chosen ones, the rare souls marked by divine design, they carry truth in their bones. They don't just learn knowledge. They remember it, because they are not just students of the sacred. They are keepers of hidden knowledge, wisdom passed down through bloodlines, visions, dreams, and divine downloads. And if you're reading this, chances are, you are one of them. You've always known things you couldn't explain, had feelings before events happened, seen symbols that made your heart race, even though you didn't understand why. That's not coincidence. That's coding, spiritual DNA. Because long before your birth, your soul was being prepared to hold knowledge that the world had forgotten. This is not about being superior. It's about being responsible. Because hidden knowledge is not just information. It's initiation, and it comes with a cost. When you carry insight others can't see, you often carry burdens others don't understand. The loneliness, the confusion, the need to stay silent when the truth is burning inside you. That's the mark of a keeper. Throughout history, every great spiritual tradition had its keepers. The druids, the mystics, the oracles, the shamans, the prophets. They were not chosen because they were perfect. They were chosen because they could hold paradox, live in the space between worlds, interpret the invisible, and most importantly, preserve what was sacred in times when everything sacred was under threat. You are part of that lineage. Your knowledge may not come from books, but it arrives through synchronicities, symbols, and soul-level knowing. You might wake up with solutions, hear whispers of truth in your dreams, be drawn to symbols you don't yet understand. That's because hidden knowledge is never taught. It is unlocked, and the key is always experience. Suffering, silence, surrender. You weren't just given information. You were given access. And with access comes responsibility. To speak when it's time. To be silent when it's sacred. To discern who is ready and who is not. Because not everyone wants to remember. Not everyone wants to see. And part of your role is knowing when to protect the mystery and when to reveal it. I remember working with a woman who had visions since childhood. She thought she was crazy. Her dreams showed her events before they happened. Her body reacted to energies in rooms long before anyone spoke. She was overwhelmed, isolated, afraid. But once she understood that her gift was not madness, it was memory, she began to reclaim it. She learned to protect her energy, to honor her knowing, to stop doubting what her soul screamed was real. And in doing so, she became a healer, not because she learned new things, but because she finally trusted what was already inside. That's your story too. Your knowing is not arrogance. It's ancient. And when you doubt it, you delay your destiny. Because this world doesn't just need information, it needs embodied wisdom, the kind that can only come from lived truth. And chosen ones, you carry the truth not just in your minds, but in your cells, your spirit, your silence. But here's the twist. This knowledge doesn't make life easier. In fact, it often makes it more complicated. Because once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you awaken, you cannot go back to sleep. And while others are playing games, you're reading patterns. While others are distracted by the obvious, you're decoding the hidden. You see through people, through systems, through illusions. And that can feel like a curse until you realize it's your calling. You're here to hold the frequency of truth, to remember when others forget, to ground reality when others are floating in fantasy. And yes, sometimes that means being the one who speaks what no one else wants to hear. That's not easy, but that's sacred. So what does it mean to be a keeper of hidden knowledge? It means learning the difference between ego and insight. Ego demands attention. Insight serves alignment. It means trusting the messages that come in stillness, through dreams, through meditation, through moments of inexplicable clarity. It means protecting your gift. Not everyone deserves access to your inner temple. Guard it, not with walls, but with wisdom. It means study not just externally, but internally. Dive into sacred texts, explore symbols, but also study your own reactions, your own triggers, your own dreams, because you are a living scripture. Your body holds records your mind has yet to translate. It means understanding timing. Truth is a frequency, and not all frequencies are meant to be broadcast at once. A word spoken too soon becomes noise, but a word spoken in divine timing becomes prophecy, and it means humility. Because the more you know, the more you realize how much remains hidden. The deeper you go, the quieter you become, not from fear, but from reverence. Being a keeper is not about being loud. It's about being aligned. You don't need to convince. Your presence already speaks volumes. People feel safer around you, or they feel exposed. That's because your energy reflects truth, and not everyone is ready for their reflection. But those who are ready, they'll find you. They'll recognize you, not from your credentials, but from your frequency. They'll say, "You feel familiar." That's because their soul remembers you. You were sent to awaken each other, so honor this knowing. Don't rush to explain it. Don't dilute it for comfort. Don't package it for approval. Just live it. Embody it. Let it shape your choices, your relationships, your path. Because you, dear one, are not just informed. You are encoded, and the knowledge you carry, it's not just for you. It's for the world you came here to help remember. Keep the flame, guard the wisdom, and when the time comes, when the right soul leans in and says, "I feel like I've known you forever," smile. Because they have, and it's time to pass the torch. Most people fear the dark. They avoid it, reject it, try to drown it out with light. But the chosen ones, they do something different. They face it. They sit with it. And in doing so, they learn its deepest secret darkness is not your enemy. It's your invitation. Because within every shadow lies a hidden key, and within every fear lies the raw material of transformation. This is the art of transmutation. This is where you, as a chosen one, turn darkness into power. Let's begin with a truth most people don't want to hear. The darkness was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to initiate you. In the ancient mystery schools of Egypt, Greece, and Tibet, initiates were required to descend into darkness, both literally and symbolically, before they could rise into wisdom. The descent wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Only those willing to face what scared them the most were deemed worthy of the secrets that could free them. And now, here you are, descended, initiated, prepared. If you've been through depression, isolation, betrayal, abandonment, or grief that felt like it cracked your soul open, know this: you weren't being broken. You were being reshaped. You were being shown what you're really made of. Because darkness doesn't just strip things away. It reveals. It tests the foundations. It makes everything clear. You begin to see who your real friends are. You discover what parts of you were built on approval and what parts are anchored in truth. You begin to sense what's authentic and what's performative. In the dark, there's nowhere to hide. And that's what makes it so terrifying. But also, so holy. Transmutation begins when you stop running from your pain and turn to face it. When you say, "Yes, I see you, and I'm not afraid anymore." In that moment, you take back your power, not by denying what happened, but by choosing to no longer be defined by it. The betrayal, it happened. The trauma, it's real. But it is not your identity. It's your initiation. Imagine a caterpillar. Before it becomes a butterfly, it dissolves inside the chrysalis. Everything it knew itself to be breaks down into goo. And in that formlessness, something miraculous begins. Cells rearrange, wings form, a new being emerges. That's you. The dark season was your chrysalis. And now, you are rising. Not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to be. The world doesn't teach us how to sit with darkness. It teaches us to distract ourselves, to numb, to hide behind positivity or performance. But the chosen ones know the only way out is through. And in going through, we claim the treasure hidden in the night. Let me share a story. I once worked with a man who had lost everything. His business failed, his marriage ended, his reputation collapsed. For months, he sat in silence. He told me it felt like the death of who he thought he was. But one day, he woke up and felt something new. Not happiness, not relief, but clarity. A deep sense of peace that he didn't need to prove anything anymore. That he was enough. That he had nothing left to hide. He started painting, writing, serving others. And from that place, he built a new life, not one driven by ego, but by essence. That is transmutation. You are not here to avoid the dark. You are here to alchemize it. To find the light hidden in the pain. To transform fear into insight. Shame into sovereignty. Anger into action. And when you do, you become something very rare. A lighthouse in a storm. A walking reminder that healing is possible. That freedom is real. That light is not the absence of darkness, it's what is born from it. So how do you begin this transmutation? First, sit with the darkness, not in judgment, but in curiosity. Ask, what are you trying to teach me? Every emotion is a messenger. Fear often points to something you're ready to grow into. Anger can reveal boundaries that were crossed. Sadness may be asking you to grieve something you haven't fully let go of. Second, express what you find. Through journaling, through art, through voice. Give form to the formless. When darkness is named, it loses its grip. When pain is witnessed, it begins to loosen. Third, create rituals of release. Burn letters. Bury old symbols. Speak truth aloud under the moon. These aren't just symbolic, they're energetic. They signal to the universe that you are ready to release what no longer serves you. Fourth, find the lesson. Always ask, what did this teach me about myself, about love, about strength? The mind wants blame. The soul wants meaning. And meaning is the bridge that turns pain into purpose. Fifth, help others. This is the final stage of transmutation, when your healing becomes a gift. When your survival becomes someone else's inspiration. When your story becomes someone else's permission to begin, darkness will still visit you. That's part of being alive. But it won't consume you anymore. Because you've built a sanctuary inside. Because you've learned that the night doesn't last forever. Because you've become the kind of person who doesn't just survive storms, you extract wisdom from them. You are not fragile. You are forged. Every crack in your story now lets the light through. And people feel that. That's why they're drawn to you. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real, grounded, radiant in a way that only those who've met their own shadow can be. So when someone says, "You've changed," smile. Because they're right. You've become something the world doesn't know how to label. A soul who's not afraid of the dark. A being who carries light because they've walked through night. This is your power. This is your proof. You didn't escape the darkness. You became its master. And now, you walk as one who knows. There is no shadow you cannot transform. There is no pain you cannot redeem. There is no darkness you cannot transmute into light. They won't call you a prophet. Not yet. They'll call you sensitive, intense, maybe even strange. Because the world has forgotten what prophecy looks like when it doesn't wear robes or stand behind pulpits. But the chosen ones of this age, they don't shout from mountaintops. They whisper through art, through energy, through presence. They don't predict events. They shift frequencies. They are not here to fit into the old system. They are here to dissolve it. And if you feel like you've been born into a time that doesn't match your soul, it's because you weren't made to belong. You were made to build something new. This is the age of spiritual disruption, of sacred rebellion, of ancient wisdom wearing modern clothes. And you, dear one, are not just an observer, you're a signal. A living reminder that something higher is breaking through. The structures that once defined value, success, identity, they're all crumbling. And what's rising in their place is something only those who remember can recognize. That's why you're here. To remember. To speak. To build. But let's be clear, prophets are not fortune tellers. They are truth holders, pattern readers, energy translators. They feel the pulse of what's coming long before the world sees the signs. And that's not easy. Because when you carry future frequencies, the present moment often feels like a misfit. Conversations feel shallow. Jobs feel pointless. Institutions feel hollow. And you wonder, am I the only one who sees this? You're not. Across the world, souls like yours are awakening, quietly, simultaneously, uncoordinated yet connected. They are feeling the same tug, the same urgency, the same unexplainable ache for something more. And that ache, it's not depression. It's calling. It's activation. You're not breaking down. You're breaking open. The prophets of the new age are not famous. They're not viral. They're not always loud. But they are anchored. They are clear. And they're moving with precision that defies logic. They don't need to convince. They embody. Their presence shifts rooms. Their silence speaks volumes. They don't perform truth. They live it. And here's the paradox. You may feel invisible now. But that's only because your vibration is still calibrating. You're being tuned like an instrument before a symphony. The dissonance you feel is temporary. The resonance that's coming, it will be unmistakable. Because as the world falls apart, people will search for voices that carry peace, eyes that see clearly, hearts that remember what matters, and they will find you. But first, you must find yourself. The prophetic path is lonely at times. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because you're doing it first. There is no blueprint for the new world. That's why you were given vision. Not just to dream, but to design. Not just to sense, but to shape. You are not ahead of your time. You are right on time for a world that is catching up. Let me tell you something sacred. In every era of collapse, there are those who rise not to rebuild the past, but to resurrect what was always eternal. In ancient traditions, they were called seers, sages, oracles. In this age, they walk among us as artists, healers, storytellers, and guides. You may be one of them. You may feel the weight of knowing, the burden of awareness, the exhaustion that comes from seeing so much and being understood by so few. But don't numb that gift. Don't shrink it to fit. Don't trade your clarity for comfort, because this age needs prophets more than ever. Prophets who don't just talk about love, but embody it. Prophets who don't just critique systems, but create alternatives. Prophets who don't just see the future, but hold space for it to arrive. So how do you walk the prophetic path? First, learn to listen. Not just with ears, but with your whole being. The future is always whispering, through symbols, synchronicities, feelings. Pay attention to what keeps returning. That's not noise. That's a message. Second, stay grounded. Prophetic insight without presence leads to burnout. You are not just a channel. You are a vessel. And vessels must be tended to. Rest, nourish, breathe. Third, speak only when the moment is ripe. Prophets are not commentators. They are catalysts. Timing matters. Discernment is holy. Fourth, build what you wish existed. If the system feels broken, don't just complain, create. Design new ways. Gather your people. Start small. Let the future take shape through your hands. Fifth, protect your clarity. Not everyone is ready to hear what you see. That's okay. Your role is not to convince. It's to hold steady. Let your alignment do the speaking. And finally, remember this: your voice matters. Even when it trembles. Even when it's quiet. Even when no one seems to be listening. Because prophecy is not about attention. It's about intention. And every time you choose truth over convenience, integrity over popularity, depth over drama, you are prophesying a better world into existence. They may not recognize you now. But one day, when the old finally crumbles and the new finally emerges, they will remember the ones who stayed faithful to what was real. They will remember you, and when they ask how you knew, how you saw it coming, how you kept going, how you held light in a time of so much darkness, just smile. Because the answer isn't in your words. It's in your walk. You didn't predict the future. You became it. And that is the true mark of a prophet of the new age. There is a light inside you that the world did not give you. And because of that, the world cannot take it away. It's not charisma. It's not charm. It's not the glow that comes from attention or applause. It's deeper, older, divine. It's the radiance of a soul that has remembered itself. And this, dear one, is what makes you different. Not your words, not your work, but your being. You carry something sacred, something rare. And now, it's time to understand it. Divine radiance is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's what happens when you stop hiding, when you stop performing, when you stop dimming to make others comfortable. It's what shines through when you fully accept yourself, not just the polished parts, but the broken ones, the scared ones, the parts you once buried. Radiance begins where shame ends. Most people try to look radiant, but chosen ones, they become radiant. Not because life was easy, but because they refused to close, refused to harden, refused to lose their light, even when they walked through hell. That's what makes your glow different. It's not decorative. It's devotional. You have walked through fires that could have turned your heart to ash. You have been misunderstood, underestimated, abandoned. And yet, here you are, still open, still kind, still burning with truth. That's radiance. That's the kind of light that can't be manufactured. It can't be copied. It's forged, born from courage, fueled by faith, and the world sees it, even when it doesn't know what it's seeing. People stare. They feel something. They say you have a vibe, an aura. They can't name it, but they feel safe near you, seen, soothed, or if they're not ready, they feel triggered, because your light reflects what they've forgotten in themselves. Divine radiance is magnetic because it's honest. It doesn't try. It is. And the more you align with your truth, the brighter it becomes. You don't need to wear it like armor. You don't need to force it. You just have to live. Live with integrity. Live with softness. Live with reverence for the soul inside you. In every tradition, the truly awakened ones glowed. Moses, after encountering the divine, returned from the mountain with a face so radiant he had to cover it. Buddha's entire being was said to radiate peace. Jesus was described as shining like the sun on the Mount of Transfiguration. And yet, none of them sought that glow. It came as a byproduct of alignment, of surrender, of divine embodiment. You, too, are stepping into that light. But here's the thing most people miss. Radiance isn't loud. It's not attention-seeking. It's still. It's grounded. It's the calm in the storm, the whisper in the noise, the steady presence that doesn't demand, but transforms. You walk into a room and things shift, not because you try to dominate, but because your energy carries truth. That's the new power. Not dominance, but resonance. Radiance is not always easy to carry, because when you shine, you reveal. You expose shadows. You challenge illusions. You become a mirror. And some people won't like what they see. They'll project, attack, try to dim you, but don't take it personally. That's just their pain reacting to your clarity. You weren't born to shrink. You weren't born to blend. You were born to shine, to reflect a light that wakes others up. Not by force, by frequency. Your job is not to convince. It's to continue. Keep glowing, keep growing, keep becoming, even when they misunderstand, even when they mock, even when they leave. Because radiance is your assignment, and the more you walk in it, the more the universe rearranges around you. Opportunities align, people shift, timelines accelerate. You become a living portal, an intersection between the seen and unseen, between what is and what could be. Your life becomes prophecy. Your presence becomes prayer. Let me remind you, this glow is not aesthetic. It's alchemical. It's the result of every time you chose truth over comfort, compassion over control, purpose over popularity. It's the reflection of the battles you won in silence, the tears you transmuted into wisdom, the fears you dissolved with faith. And now the world is catching up. People are waking up to something they can't name. They're searching for something they can't buy. And when they find you, They'll realize it's not about what you do. It's about who you are. It's about what you carry. And what you carry cannot be taught, only remembered. So protect your glow, not with walls, but with wisdom. Not with hiding, but with healthy boundaries. Not with fear, but with fierce devotion to your own soul. You are not just attractive. You are activating. You are not just inspiring. You are initiating. You are not just surviving. You are radiating. Let them wonder. Let them question. Let them feel what they can't yet explain. Because you're not here to be understood. You're here to be undeniable. This is your divine radiance. This is your return to self. And now, more than ever, the world needs your light. Shine on.